Good morning. Good morning. Let's get this together. Let's make this happen. It's Friday morning. We're taking on the day. Weekend right around the corner. We are a week out from Thanksgiving. That's just a bunch of family time. My goodness. Family time. Feeling good? Are we anxious? Are we excited? Give me an update. What's everyone doing for Thanksgiving, by the way? For us, we're usually here. We're usually staying pretty close. So it's never anything. We're not traveling too much. We're not doing too much right there. So it's all pretty good. And I feel like we're still in the midst of just balancing everything out with our kiddos as things kind of go down. So anyway, what do we have today? Where are we at? Let me get some notes up here. We're sitting at November 22nd. Everybody is going through something. Ryan Shazier. Now, who is familiar with one of the most memorable NFL linebackers ever? Anyone? Ryan Shazier? Played for the Steelers, correct? Am I wrong? I'm pretty sure. My mind is just not giving it to me right now, but that's okay. But if you guys remember Ryan Shazier, where is he coming from? What team was he playing for? What college did he play at? But you may have known of him. One thing, I mean, if I picture Ryan Shazier, I just know that, darker complexion, balding, which is important. It's a big part of what's really going on today. So with the intention of making sure that we tie a lot of our gratitude back to whatever we're learning today, I'm always trying to kind of jump into at least some sort of idea, storytelling to kind of connect this kind of stuff to. But I think that one thing I want to say is that just for every kid, every adult, like everyone is carrying something. And the bigger message here is that sometimes it's visible and sometimes it's hidden. A learning disability, maybe a blood disorder, right? Ryan Shazier was someone here that he had something that was hidden, right? But also a little bit visible. He had an autoimmune disease, which led to, I believe is how it was put, is that it led to alopecia, which is where he started to lose all his hair. And if you saw him, if you think about him right now, he was bald. He was not having a, he was bald, right? Alopecia just got him. Cheers to you over there, David. I see you. Thank you so much. But everybody is carrying something. Jason's here.
Good morning.
Jason's here. Good morning.
Were you all alone?
All alone this morning. It's okay, though. It's okay. I've been working through keeping structure and working through some notes. So it gives me time to get organized, use them. So I feel like 30 minutes goes so fast.
It flies by.
Yeah. And then there's the idea here of the want to give enough time for conversation. You want to give enough time for people to understand what is just going on in everyone's dad life. That's kind of the big thing, right? We have health, we have connection, we have mindset. But I think that without some of these meditations and really focusing, kind of getting deeper into some of them, we kind of miss some points. So I was just trying to make sure that we're not missing those moments. So it's all good. How you doing now?
I'm good. Woke up intending to go to the gym, but then decided to stay in. And I always, just like non-seriously, I'm just, enjoying laying in bed. But then as I lay there pondering if I should go to the gym or not, I'm like, maybe I should rest. I went yesterday. Maybe I should alternate my gym days. Nah, maybe I should go every night. I always go through this mental struggle, and I'm not sure if I'm just making excuses or if I'm actually doing something good by resting.
They're all going to sound good in a way, as long as they're fulfilling. What would make you feel most fulfilled?
Rationalizing. I'm sure it's a little bit of both, but I'm feeling good today because I didn't do anything. I just woke up 20 minutes ago.
Okay. Are you fulfilled?
No, I mean this does, but I feel like now I wish that I went to the gym.
I think I'm asking about that fulfillment question because I was getting some I was reading through a few things about trying to understand, kind of get more clarity. I'm in this like little moment of kind of like program development for my business. And it's hard because as you're developing some of these programs, it's taking away time to, get closer with some of your current clients. You're not really pulling in money at that point. And so it's hard to feel fulfilled from the financial bucket and the connection bucket. But my creative bucket is like overflowing when I get to do those things. So it's this like really tough balance. And I was trying to figure out like, okay, how can I organize this feeling and this thought? And so fulfillment was one of those. And so, the thing that is, it's not the time I set to work on something. It's not the completion side of it, but it really is just the fulfillment side. So if I'm missing some bit of fulfillment, let's at least get to at least some sort of threshold where it's showing up in some way, right? So anyway, I know that's like a larger topic, but it was a good prompt, and that's on my mind, which is why I asked about what would be most fulfilling for you. Could be making pancakes for the girls this morning, and if you just did that, then maybe it's a good day.
I can completely relate to the creativity cup being filled and the financial cup not being filled.
It's the task switching that I struggle with the most. So, I'm grateful I put myself in a position to understand why I'm that way a little bit more.
Well, here's my point of view on that is like when I get into a really good spot of like creating stuff and being productive, I love it. And then my next thought is, okay, I should monetize this. And then as soon as I start that process, I'm like, wow, this is boring. I'd rather just make stuff. Like that's just something that I learned as an art major from college. And I think I've said this before, but if I'm going to give any advice to anybody who's going to go to college for any kind of like creative field, please take a business course or a minor or something. I could have totally used that.
Can I take a step further and tell someone that you probably don't need to go take a business course? I was that kid who loved the marketing side of it because I love making logos. I love like connecting like an idea with some sort of like I'm not doing art by hand, but like I'll jump into Canva for hours and then create something and be like, this I feel like can definitely connect with people. But it is I don't think any business classes really helped me out as much as just reading books, listening to podcasts, getting in touch with people who kind of knew what they were doing too. I'm not anti-college, and this is also echoing, I think, some things that Gary Vaynerchuk has kind of mentioned as well, and other people's. But I would definitely say that, and maybe I would ask you because I want to turn this into a question rather than a statement from me. Do you feel you need to take a class, or do you think that if you put time aside to just learn about it from other successful people, that it could have been better? Which is kind of like, yeah, of course that could be great if it was the right scenario. But
I think that I would have benefited from like a focused course type thing, because what happens when I start researching and looking at other people is I start getting so many different ideas that I just kind of like have this general body of knowledge with no real place to start. Whether it's whether it's like watching YouTube or like reading up on somebody's business acumen or something like that. It's great and it's inspiring, but it does not. I've learned that it does not inspire me to actually take those steps. Like actually having the knowledge is probably how I operate better.
Can I ask another question about that?
You can ask me as many questions as you want because you're my brother, Ryan.
Well, first of all, I say that so I ground myself, by the way. And lately I've been, especially when I'm in my one-on-one sessions with clients, I will say out loud, I'm doing this. So I remind myself to be grounded. And then so like half the appointment is just like me basically being like, I'm grounding myself. Like Ryan's really grounding himself a lot when we talk.
Well, I appreciate that.
No, it's good. It's I was going to ask this. Oh, so you mentioned just like a very straightforward, structured kind of course. I feel as if I like the coursework. I think it's comfortable. But I think that getting into rooms or getting into conversations or circles with people that are already doing it, I think is a really helpful thing for me. And then finding the people within there that can give me the accountability to kind of stay focused on what I originally went in there for.
Mhm.
That's what helps me most, but I do the least.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question. Have you ever thought of something being like really awesome, like something that you wanted to do, whether, I don't know, business or some kind of event, but then you went and talked to somebody who did it, or like uh you got the experience like secondhand, and like did that ever satisfy you? What I found is a few times is I'm going to take climbing Mount Everest as an example, just because I saw some post on it the other day. In my head, it's a great experience, right? But then there's so much media out there about people summiting Everest. There's like, that looks really cool, and I'm feeling kind of satisfied. I just got to experience all that in about 7 minutes. Once in a while, depending on the thing, that kind of satiates my want to do or accomplish something. Does that ever happen to you, or not at all?
Yeah, for sure. And good morning, Craig, by the way. Great to see you. I can connect with the Everest thing because I feel like once I saw them posting like people that were in lines waiting to get to the top, I was like, that looks dumb. I don't need to do that anymore. And so I agree with kind of seeing that experience, not wanting to do it. I think that's mainly your question. Has someone else's experience or lifestyle, has it affected the way that I want to continue doing something? Is that basically it?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, that happened to me when I was in marine science.
So, like,
I
somebody
had
else
it.
did it. I don't have to do it.
Oh yeah. I
Sometimes.
mean,
Sometimes
I've
I have.
I also had a great vision of like what I wanted to do when I was studying marine science for a long time. And then I met people that were within the field, great people. It was just a lifestyle that I did not like. And I was like, oh no, I don't think that's what I'm going to like. And so
Wait,
I
you're
took
talking
myself out
about
of it.
like when you saw, is that what you said? When you saw the actual lifestyle of a marine biologist?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you summarize that for us? What the life of a marine biologist looks like?
Yeah, I'll say it, and then we'll get back to the main points here. But what I saw and what I always say, it's kind of what I always going to go back to. I realized that the type of work that I wanted to do to feel fulfilled and the amount of money I wanted to make for myself, I was going to have to be on cruises, like research cruises for like years at a time, right? And so if it wasn't like out there on the ocean for 2 years, it was definitely like going to the boat and having to go back and forth. And it wasn't something that I really enjoyed. I didn't enjoy actually being on the boat. Now, I didn't want to actually go study dolphins. It wasn't my thing. I loved plate tectonics. I loved the geology behind it all. And that's what I wanted to do. I really wanted to study like how the earth was moving and then how that was affecting things and like different populations of animals and then all of that. That's what I loved about it. And then there was a lot of learning about space and learning about ocean chemistry and all those kind of things. It was fun. We also had to learn about the animals too, but it was not the lifestyle that I saw. I wasn't connecting with it.
It sounds awesome. I don't know if I'd yeah, some version of me in the past decades would enjoy something like that, but not at the moment.
Yeah, it wasn't. And then I became afraid of the ocean. So it was something that I just didn't need to do anymore. So it was just like, there's so much unknown about the ocean. Everyone says that now. I think that we finally have all realized that we know more about different planets and space than we do about our own ocean. But it's scary. It's a scary place to a point where I'm like, I don't need to fuck with that. I'm like, you stay down there and I'm not going to come at you. So you don't come at me. And so that's how I ended up taking all of it. So yeah.
Yeah, I can feel it.
But that itself, I think, is a struggle, if I can bring it back to things, right? Because um, I think that a lot of people are probably going through a lot of self doubt, trying to rework passions and figure out where they fit in the world. A little bit what we're talking about right now.
Going
And
through
so
something. Everybody's going through something.
everyone's going through something. There we
Yeah.
go. We're back. We're back. Here we go. Right. Um, but this whole thing started with like Ryan Shazier played for the Steelers. Everyone should know him. Again, I mentioned like darker complexion. If you can't want to picture him, he had alopecia when he was younger due to a rare autoimmune disease. But his parents, what they were saying to him is really the main point of everything that I think that we're definitely getting at here. But that's what I wanted to tie some of the gratitude into. Now, I know, David, you already shared some of your gratitude. Thank you so much for doing that. And helping your family through hard conversations, I think is great. I think the basis of everything that we need to kind of talk about here. But I think helping your kids, David, see that bigger picture is huge. And having the opportunity to do it, I think, is pretty cool. To think outside yourself for a moment, to think about how their lifestyle can play into somebody else's, how you're connecting. So all that kind of stuff is pretty good, because I think where we're at is that everyone has their own struggles, right? Overall kindness, right? Kindness goes a long way, which is where this is coming from, right? Because thinking about a kid with alopecia going through school, all that type of stuff, like kids likely are going to end up getting bullied, or things will be said and things can be taken out of context. Feelings can be hurt, all that kind of stuff too, right? Because kids don't really understand what's happening. But the lesson of like, hey, you know what? We're able to see your alopecia, but other people, they could be going through something else, depression, some kind of anxiety, on a larger level. Let's say someone is having, cancer. It could be so many other things. But I think starting with kindness, and I think curiosity. I think that the kindest people are the most curious, and so always something that I think we want to teach our kids. Do you feel like you're teaching your kids that, Jason?
Yeah. And I want to go back to the main title of this. Everybody's going through something, because that's something that I've had a talk with, specifically my middle daughter, going kind of like learning challenges. She has dyslexia. She's somewhere on the spectrum, and there's been times when she's felt extremely different than other people, and we've had that same discussion that it's not like everybody's normal and noticing you, because like that's what she feels like when she was reading in class before. Like, she's gotten so much better at reading. It's great, but like before, she would have to read in front of class, and she would struggle because she would get caught up and got nervous. And in her head, she was the only one that had any kind of issue, and everybody else was normal. And part of the discussion with her, in her realizing how to deal with that, is everybody's got something going on. You're not the only one. Like, there's at least like 5 other kids in her class that have some kind of reading difficulty.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the sooner you have that talk with your kids, that everybody's got their own little situation going on,
Mm-hmm.
I think that will benefit. It's also kind of like a good way of dealing with the main character syndrome. Like, you ever, what the main character
Mm-hmm.
syndrome is? It's like,
Yeah,
I can
I've
go.
I have a hard time with it, because I think that if we don't look at ourselves as a main character in some sort of way sometimes, then we might end up being not as in touch with ourselves as we need to. I like the concept of the main character syndrome, but I like to think a little bit differently about it.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting concept to like play around with in my head. I think everybody goes through it, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just, I think it's funny. It's just funny that everybody's walking around with a lifetime of stories, and it's hard to, it's not hard. It's just like, it's very easy to stop acknowledging that, everybody's got their own story. Everybody's doing the same thing, you know?
And then how do you feel like what is the most effective way to talk to your kids about that? Because I have a thought about it.
Well, I don't talk about like that the main character thing. It's more like everybody's got something going on, and it's mostly with things where they feel like they're singled out in some way.
Yeah.
Like whether it's a reading disability or their clothes don't feel right or
Hmm.
they're not getting along with a friend. Even like with like when friends aren't getting along, it's like it's not that like everybody does not dislike you. That's not the issue. It's like
Hmm.
some people just have stuff going on at home. Or like Junie at the same time, like she'll have like a really good friend, right? And then that friend will go and hang out with another friend. And in Junie's mind, they're no longer friends. It's black and white. It's one or the other, right?
Yeah.
So part of
Yeah.
that discussion is you can still be with friends with somebody and they can also be friends with other people. And that means you can also still be friends and you might make new friends through them. That has been a hard discussion to have.
I'm sure. It's also I think that's also very age appropriate. Um, which is I think harder for some people to grasp than others. And then if we're having one of those more internal struggles and challenges themselves with this, you're sharing, I think, I think a great lesson or a great conversation or a great um, challenge that you have close to you, which I think is definitely great. Do you think that there is um, some sort of lesson or like a moment in your life that if you told a story, like a lesson or a time where you had to share some empathy or show some empathy to someone that you've been able to share with your girls at all? And I only say this because I feel like that storytelling and that connection is definitely huge. Like, you know what? I thought that my friend didn't want to want to play with me at all or whatever, and then you being able to kind of discuss with them, be like, no, it's just because they were busy, they're focusing on other things right now, right? Then you kind of get into expectations, you can get into being open up for conversations, talking things out, and all that kind of stuff. But is there a specific like lesson or moment in your life with your experiences that you've shared with your kids? I've just seen that as such an effective way to do it.
I agree. I don't really have anything specific. Um, it's just when you get to that situation with your kid, you get to the point where it's like you have to explain that point.
Yeah.
It's just, it's something that you end up like coming up with some kind of story on the spot that you've gone through. I don't have any off the top of my head. I've been there because I know what it
Hmm.
feels like, but
Yeah.
it's not something that triggers until it's like my kid is struggling and I have to bring up whatever experience that is. How about you? Do you have one of those?
Yeah, I mean, I could say that there's maybe on the opposite end of things, where maybe I could have showed more empathy, and so I've talked about that with my girls before too, about like, okay, you know what, maybe you saw me act this way. I really feel I should have acted this way instead. I missed my moment for empathy, because of maybe what this one person could have been going through. One time in particular, it kind of sticks in my head, was when it was a cashier. It was over at the food stores, over at Whole Foods, and the cashier was just like not being very helpful. And by that, what I mean is like scanning stuff, throwing it to like the end of the whatever it's called, like the counter, and you know. There's something special about that person also helping scan, put it in a bag, and then kind of getting in and out as fast as we really can. And I remember getting frustrated because I was like, okay, well, first of all, I'll do all the bagging, and then I'll also make sure that, it's finding its right place. And then and so the guy is kind of going through, he's just kind of like not really even paying attention to me. He's just kind of like, he's just like zoned out. And, all these like groceries are piling up. And I think Sloan was with me and she saw me get frustrated. And I told the guy, I was like, hey, you know, in so many words, I was like, why don't we chill out with just scanning it right now? You're not even helping anyway, right? And just kind of using some language out loud, right? That was definitely a little bit like sharp on the tongue. And so I didn't apologize to the guy, right? I would say we left that moment pretty, you know, at a really difficult moment, I guess, between us, because he was probably upset that I said something and I was upset that he wasn't helping. But I think it was something where, you know, I could have gone back in and talked to, you know, Sloan about it and, you know, apologize to the guy to show her. But it was more that I needed to take that moment and be like, you know what, like have that moment of reflection, and being able to know, okay, look, I didn't stop myself in the moment. I started to say certain things that I didn't really like. I was feeling something. I could have said it differently. And I wanted her to know that dad just doesn't blow up, that dad, like, there's thoughts going through his head and that he's working on that kind of thing too. So it was the lack of empathy, because that guy could have been going through something. I don't know, right? He probably didn't like his job, but it was something where I wanted to make sure that I was having that discussion with her. But you know, it was the lack of empathy that brought on that lesson. So I think that's also important. And just because you're not doing it in the moment, you don't have, there's a lack of a moment. It's like, you can still have those.
Yeah. I think I would say this, just an example. I think a good place to exercise that might be like traffic. You ever been sitting in traffic? Do you even drive in the city? And maybe you don't even drive. We drive here in Colorado because everything's far away. But one place that I have exercised that is, weird traffic patterns and people that are just kind of, driving nuts. Just bad drivers in general, or aggressive drivers.
Yeah.
Sometimes, somebody makes some weird turn or merge or whatever. I've even gotten the finger before, and I've given the finger back to somebody, like with Kira in the car. There was like one time on the way to soccer practice. That's a good opportunity. And I say this kind of in reflection of saying, yeah, you know what? Maybe that person's going through something, or maybe that person is in a big rush for an emergency, instead of saying, you're just being a jerk and bad driver.
Yeah, I think that's good.
That's the one example I can think of where that actually applies. I'm sure there's others.
No, it's a good one. I think it's definitely a good one. I definitely have given the finger, and my girls have seen it, and my girls have reprimanded me. And so, like, I'm definitely quick to be like, "Yep, I was wrong. I shouldn't have done that. I'm totally fine."
How soon? What's the delay after doing that to you apologizing to your girls? My shortest is like 3 seconds.
I'd say I'm pretty quick on it. I would say I'm quicker to apologize to my girls than I'm usually to Lauren, because I'm still like, okay, there's something here. We got to figure this out. Anyway, that's deeper than we have to go. But I think all those lessons are good. You made me think of the driving thing for a second, because driving sometimes, and someone's like speeding, they just cut me off. The one thing I will say out loud, I'll go, oh man, it must be really hard to be them right now. They're probably late for something or rushing somewhere. And so if I want to feel better about the situation, I have to find some of that empathy, but then feel bad for someone in a way, right? If I can be like, okay, well, I'll put you mentally in my head where you weren't able to actually, think straight for yourself, the person in front of me or whoever cut me off. I think that's always pretty good. But yeah, I think whatever it is, whether it's this, alopecia from Hirsch's ear, whether it's cutting people off, whether it's this, person, this cashier, I think it's so important to help your kids not fall into the main character syndrome, right? That's kind of what you brought up.
I think that's going to happen one way or another. I think David, sorry, is that D. Kahneman's first name?
Yep, that's David.
I want to be on a first name basis with these names.
Yeah, it's David.
So I like what he said about when you take control of the conversation. I would say for me, it's when they start blaming other people for their own actions.
Mm-hmm.
Did I word that right? I don't think, maybe I didn't word it right.
No, you
I think
did. I feel like it's
when they start losing control of their emotions based on somebody else's actions. Maybe that's a good way to put it.
yeah, for sure. I feel like when we get further away from it the same way. Well, no, like
You're
because
going
the further
roboto.
we I am
Yeah.
interesting. I if I'm back, the
Oh,
the further
you're good.
that people get the further people get away from accountability, it just sounds like it's just a a complete venting session. And so then it's like, well, if you want to vent, but if you really want me to listen and you want some answers, then we're going to have to, really get back to some of that accountability. What could you have done different? I agree with that. Am I saying what you said?
Yeah, in another way, but I think you got it.
Okay.
Accountability,
Cool.
that's one. Being responsible for your emotions and your responses to the outside world, for sure.
I think sometimes I can cut off my kids' flow. The accountability thing still sits there, but sometimes I think that I want my kids just to keep like going with whatever they're kind of talking about. One, it's cute. Two, I feel like I don't want my thoughts or my opinions to ever stop them. So it's just getting me thinking. I don't have an answer there so much, David, but it's a
Well,
good question.
as the main character in their lives, I sometimes want to interrupt what they're saying because sometimes they're wrong, Ryan.
Sometimes they're wrong. Who was it recently? Someone said that they were asked, it would think it was by Jay Shetty asking someone, I forget who the woman was, but Jay Shetty asked the woman, it was, people have had to see this, I think it was big, but he said, what is one of the like best parenting pieces of advice or something that you have ever heard? And she said that all feelings are welcome, not all actions, I think is what it was. And so I thought that was definitely pretty good. And then she went on to say a few other things, but I thought it was definitely good because, like, yeah, your feelings are valid, but whatever your action is, that's definitely hard, right? To kind of talk to kids about.
There's another thought very similar to that. That I bring up with my students sometimes about that same thing, feelings and actions. It'll come back to me. But yeah, that's a good point to bring up with kids, is that you're allowed to feel what you feel, but you can't take it out on others in a negative way. You can always say how you feel. That's fine. You can always talk about it, but
yeah.
Tactile blades of people, then that's when shit hits the fan.
You're right. Okay, so we're at the top of the hour. I got to run, but we'll do this. Want to make sure that, sorry, I'm just gonna get this because I completely missed my client's message. Yeah, look, everyone's going through something, right? So I think we just want to make sure the message is here that we're just teaching our kids, right? How they can just see these different struggles, how to help them kind of uncover them, accept them. I think that all that's going to be really, really, really good. At the end of the day, can you make your kids kinder to other people? That's what we want. And then put purpose behind it. Why are they kinder? Why should they be kinder, right? All that. I'd love to make sure, always trying to find something to leave with everybody here. But have a conversation with your kids this weekend. If you definitely can. Talk about challenges, whether it's theirs, whether it's yours, whether it's someone else's. Bring up maybe something we talked about here if someone can. But help them understand that, everyone's going through something, that it's universal. I would hope that that's something that kids can definitely get away from this. And that, there doesn't be an answer, but that kindness and empathy have to be part of that answer, whatever it's going to be. So anyway, share those, see what's going on. We'd love to hear your stories. Please let us know. Be so much fun. All right. All right, Jay, any last words before we head out?
No, I'm good. I will say I'm about a 7 out of 10 today, so I don't have a whole lot of super deep thoughts.
No worries. Well, I got to run.
I'll put it like this. I'm happy, but I'm not fulfilled for whatever reason, because I'm probably going through something. I don't know.
Go be fulfilled. Sorry, I can't ask more questions about it. I love you. I love everyone else. Coffees, mugs, hearts, gratitude. and we will talk with you later. Bye, guys.